Hello, and welcome back to the Volume Vegan Cooking Channel. It's getting chilly outside. That, combined with all of the allergies and colds going around, means that it is officially soup season. I love soups, especially fragrant, flavorful, brothy soups full of hearty ingredients that I can eat as much as I want of without packing on the calories. I need all the help I can get with all of these challenging holiday eating occasions coming up in the not so distant future. I have always loved Chinese hot and sour soup. After trying a whole lot of recipes to make the soup vegan and as similar to the soups as I remembered, this is what I've come up with. I've loaded it up with veggies and mushrooms. This is also the soup that I turn to when we have a cold in this house. The warmth, with a little bit of a spicy kick, helps to clear up stuffy noses and soothe sore throats. I much prefer it over the canned mock chicken noodle soups that are full of sodium and gluten when we need a brothy, comforting soup. All right, get out your favorite soup pot and let's get started. All right, we're getting started with a block of tofu. I am just using an extra firm tofu. I'm not going to use a whole lot in this soup, more like a crouton effect, really. I'm going to show you step by step how I drain and press my tofu. I've been a vegan for over 10 years now, and I still haven't bought a tofu press. I still do it the exact same way I've always done it, or at least perfected my method. So I drain the water out while it's still in the packaging, just kind of, making slits around the edge of the block so that I don't cut into it, and draining out that way. Yeah. Now that I've got it all drained, I'm going to peel the plastic back and pull out my solid block of tofu. Extra firm doesn't hold as much water as less firm blocks, so that's why I definitely prefer it in those situations. I use my most lint-free towel, and the reason why I do that is because paper towels were the way that I wanted to go in the beginning. It felt like it was going to be cleaner or less linty for me, but they just take up so much water and you have to replace them over and over and over again, or else they're basically just holding water against the tofu, where with fabric it just kind of disperses a little bit better. I don't even know how to describe it better than that. It just seems to get the water out of the tofu better. So I wrap it up in a towel, and then I take my 2 cast iron skillets and I place them on top as the weight to press out the water and prepare it for pan frying later, which is what we're going to do today. Now I've got these dried wood ear mushrooms that I bought from an Asian supermarket nearby. I'm crazy about them. I've been using them, and a bag of them goes so far. I'm measuring out, what is that? Maybe that's a cup of the mushrooms. They're dried, they're dehydrated, so we're going to have to rehydrate those by simply adding water and allowing it to soak in for about 10 minutes or more. And now I'm going to do a little sauteing to get things ready using a little grapeseed oil, because it's, a high heat, a high temperature oil. It's really good for pan frying, very light in flavor and in texture. And I'm going to just saute some garlic and ginger with some salt and pepper, really spreading that out in the pan so that it, evenly gets to the heat. browns a little bit, sautés a little bit, makes the room really, really fragrant. Now once you've got that to a good place, you can start adding your vegetable broth. I am using 8 cups of vegetable broth. I usually put in the first half and then sort of deglaze the bottom, scrape any little bits of, browned garlic or anything off the bottom of the pan before I add in the rest. And now we're going to bring it to a boil. So once we've got it boiling, we're going to lower the heat and let it bubble and simmer. And we're going to start adding things to it. First, we're going to add some fresh mushrooms. This is just a gourmet blend that I got from Kroger. It's got oyster and cremini and shiitake mushrooms in it. Now, fresh mushrooms, they cook down and they lose a lot of volume. So that's why I'm compensating by adding another mushroom in to add more bulk and volume and hardiness. So here's our finished dried wood ear mushrooms. They are amazing. They're hydrated. I love the texture of these guys. The bite is amazing. There's something about them. It's kind of comparable to like this lunch meat ham that my mom used to get when we were kids. I don't know. That's kind of what it reminds me of. So I'm adding it into the soup, lots and lots of them, because like I said, I want hardiness, I want volume, I want bites, and not just broth. So adding some of those in as well. You want to rehydrate those before you add them to the soup, because if you add them in dry, they're just going to soak up a lot of your broth. So that's why I rehydrate them first. I'm adding in some bamboo shoots, pre-sliced, canned. I love the bite of those as well. I'm not really into water chestnuts, but I like the bamboo shoots. And here I am mixing up just a little bit of cornstarch. That's 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and a 1/4 cup of cold water. And I'm going to just stir that up so it's neatly combined terribly while I'm trying to hold the camera and not the bowl. And I'm going to do that off screen and set that to the side for later. Now I am adding in 3 tablespoons of rice vinegar. That's where we get the sour at in this hot and sour soup. The rice vinegar that I get is a little seasoned. It's just the Kroger brand. So it has some interesting little seasoning in the bottom of it. And I'm going to add in
2 tablespoons
of this Asian chili paste, whichever one you like. Sriracha will also work. I just happen to have some of this in my refrigerator for that hot factor. Then I've got, this is where you would use soy sauce. Instead of using soy sauce, I use Bragg's liquid aminos, or I use a coconut aminos. You can also use tamari. Any of those versions are gluten-free, whereas soy sauce is not. So that is why I use Bragg's. And I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of that Truvia substitute that I showed you guys in my grocery haul, that sugar substitute. And it measures cup for cup, just like sugar. So now I have chopped up a huge amount of Napa cabbage. It's an Asian cabbage. I use it often in recipes instead of bok choy, because bok choy is a little bit more expensive, and there's just so much volume to this Napa cabbage. I've completely filled up my soup pot, and I'm just going to put the lid back on and let that marinate, wilt, cook down. Turn my attention to my tofu. I have cubed it up into little blocks. I'm not very picky about measurements there. As you can see, there's some tiny slivers and there's just some huge chunks. That's how it turned out. So I've just seasoned it with a little salt and pepper, very simply, because there's so much flavor in the soup that the tofu doesn't really need it. And as you can see, we've really cooked that down. I'm going to add in our cornstarch and water mixture. That's just going to thicken it up. You know, traditional hot and sour soups have that, you know, a little bit of a thicker brothiness. Now, when it comes to frying tofu, I like to get my pan really, really hot. I put the tofu in the pan when it's very, very hot. It needs to be able to, you know, sizzle when it hits. I leave the tofu alone as much as I can possibly do. This is my advice. Leave the tofu alone. It's going to develop a crust. I learned very early on that the best way to really flip it over and get the crust to come with it is to flip it with a metal spatula. You've got to really get up underneath that and lift, because it'll stick, you know. And now one small tip, if you want to make your tofu a little bit crispier, is to just kind of roll it around in some cornstarch, just a little bit of cornstarch on the outside of it, really, or whatever your favorite starch is. I usually use a tapioca starch, and that will give it a little bit more of a crispy outside. I'm just not doing it because I don't need it, and because I'm trying to avoid all the starches as much as I can anyway. Yeah, so, I forgot to mention, I was just using a little bit of that grapeseed oil, literally just about a tablespoon of it, just enough to get a little bit of oil in the bottom of that pan. Now I have added in some herbs, tons of cilantro, maybe about a half a cup, and a half a cup of green onion as well. You know, herbs are honestly the secret. Herbs and spices are the way that you flavor food and make it amazing. And I'm crazy about lots of fresh herbs. So, finished product. I've got a huge bowl full of hearty, warm, comforting, flavorful soup. Incredible, delicious. I love that hot and sour flavor. I'm adding some more heat by, drizzling sriracha all over it, and it is good to go. It's very, very exciting. This was a few days ago. I've been eating it ever since, and it's crazy. After I filmed it, I just was talking about how this is perfect for allergy season and colds. My son ended up developing some kind of little cold in his nose and throat, and I was really glad that I already had it on hand and ready to go to help soothe that throat. So love that. I love that recipe. I've got a couple of other go-to brothy soups that I can't wait to share with you. One of them is a leek and lemongrass soup, and another one is based on Vietnamese pho. My interpretation of that. So I'll definitely be sharing that with you very, very soon. Please, in the comments, let me know if you're going to make this soup, if you tried it and you love it, if you have your own recipe that you like, any sort of alterations that you would have made to the recipe. Definitely, if you enjoyed it, or if you think that you've got some friends that would enjoy the recipe, please like it, share it. Make sure that you subscribe and turn on those notifications while you're here so that you never miss another one of my volume vegan recipes. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you so much for the response. I've only been doing this for a week or two now, and I've already, just the small amount of engagement that I've gotten on such a young channel is very, very encouraging to me, and I'm very excited. So thank you very much. As always, have a great week, and continue to look for these recipes. Eat deliciously. Bye-bye.